Last week we discussed about Justin Ross and if that hype should be valid. And while that is still up in the air, we're going to discuss someone today who I feel does not get enough hype and I feel should be more appreciated. Today we will be diving into Skyy Moore and what the Kansas City Chiefs should expect for him going into 2023. But before we do get into all of that, please be sure to subscribe to the channel, like this video, as I'm going to keep you up to date on anything Kansas City Chief related that you do not want to miss out on. And without further ado, let's have some fun. Now, before we kick this video off, the Kansas City Chiefs finally got to take a trip to the White House and visit Joe Biden, as they didn't get to do it after their first Super Bowl win against the San Francisco 49ers. Well, not their first Super Bowl win, but their first Super Bowl win in 50 years. They didn't get to go to the White House previously due to COVID, and now they took full advantage of it. As you see, everyone looked dressed to impress. They looked official. Everyone was all suited up. I think everyone. The only one that wasn't suited up was Frank Clark. And did you expect nonetheless? You could have expected him to wear a suit, but it fits Frank Clark's personality that he came in with a hoodie, and that's just him. That's just how he shows out, and I love it. And I also loved the characteristics, the charisma, the Kansas City Chiefs just showing their personality. Of course, the main takeaway was Travis Kelce being a fool at the podium and being who Travis Kelce is. We should expect nonetheless from him to try to steal the center of attention and be that in that moment. And then also another key takeaway in that moment was Coach Reid as well. We've heard Coach Reid have press conference for 10 years now, and he has always been official with reporters and basically point to direct and knew how to answer every question. In this, you see him a little caught in the moment, which it being flustered and also emotional due to the passing of Norma Hunt, which was so unfortunate that we heard last night. And I don't believe Clark Hunt was there as well. And you could just see Coach Reid was very emotional in that. And then towards the end as well, just showing his appreciation of being the Kansas City Chiefs coach and being a part of this organization. There's not a coach like Coach Reid, and definitely an honor to have him as our coach. And hopefully that is something that will keep going from year in and year out. And it's cool to see the Kansas City Chiefs actually at the White House, because it may not be something that is held up high just because of the recent state of how you view the U.S. and things like that, which we're not going to get into political-wise, but it just seems like those visits haven't happened, and you've seen players hold out and not wanting to go. And it seems like even former teammates, like you see McCole Hardman there, Coach EB was there, Andrew Wiley was there. I think everyone made the trip, and that was cool to see all the players reconnecting and getting back together. It was a very cool experience, and hopefully they can make that trip next year as they try to go back to back. Now that we got caught up in all that and all those fun festivities, now it's time to go back into this wide receiving core, because yes, it is always a key focus for me. And as I mentioned earlier to start this video, one of the key focuses was Justin Ross. And as I mentioned, is he worth the hype? We're not going to discuss that anymore. A lot of you don't seem to agree with my points. I'm going to stick with my points though, because I just need to see it on the field. That's point blank. I'm going to keep it as simple as that. Is he talented? Most definitely. But do I feel like he should be, his hype train should be off the tracks? No, not at all. And honestly, now I can't let it go, because something that just clicked in my head that I now need to mention in this video, which is also going to kind of tie this video in whole too as well, is Peter Schrager. And boy, oh boy, Peter Schrager. I know he's a huge Kansas City Chiefs fan, and I know what he's doing here, and I know he was in Kansas City last week for a portion of the mini camp, so I know he's close with the personnel, and he got a lot of insight. But today, he listed, I want to believe, 5 wide receivers who are under the radar and who he feels will have a big impact going into next year. Basically a breakout year. And at number 5, who would you believe it? It was Justin Ross. And initially I'm like, we're still doing this? Like, this is not even Kansas City Chiefs media. This is not even Chiefs Kingdom anymore. This is NFL media hyping this kid up. And Peter Schrager even mentioned it. It's probably Chiefs Kingdom's favorite Kansas City Chiefs player. And I don't even know if that's an exaggeration at this point. I feel like he has been getting more hyped up than even when Patrick Mahomes was coming out of the draft. That's how much Chiefs Kingdom loves the kid. But when I saw this, my first thought was, hold up, what are we doing here? Is this just like undrafted? And then no, because he listed him with the guys like Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson. In my head, I'm just like, hold up. So you're listing Justin Ross ahead of Skyy Moore and Kadarius Toney as your breakout candidates? Whoa. Like, now I can't get on with that, because as we're going to discuss in this video, and we're going to zone in a little more on Skyy Moore and Kadarius Toney, I feel Justin Ross can be productive. But as I mentioned, I'm not going to say 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns. Now, if that happens, hey, we'll clip this and we'll revisit it at the end of next year, hopefully when the Kansas City Chiefs are holding a Lombardi. But like I mentioned, 300 yards and 3 touchdowns, I'm satisfactory with. I think that's a great year for Justin Ross. Right now, a lot of us are mentioning him as a bubble candidate, but shoot, he's on the team at this point. I don't even think he's a bubble candidate. Like, with all the hype he's getting, it would be a damn shame if he didn't make the team. So let's just cut all the hoopla and let's get to what this video is going to be about. And it's going to be about Skyy Moore and why I feel Skyy Moore should be so hyped up. And the first thing I want to get at is, why aren't we discussing him? Like, I just don't understand. Now, he did have a slow year last year. It was very inconsistent. Actually, there was no consistency of it whatsoever. He was rarely involved in the offense, and he struggled on special teams. And if Chiefs Kingdom, if you're going to hold special teams and the fumbles and punt returns against Skyy Moore, do the same as what he did on punt returns and just drop it, like literally. And let's get serious with it. All jokes aside, Skyy Moore can be a lethal talent in this league. As we focus on Justin Ross, and when we say Justin Ross is unique and it's someone like Patrick Mahomes has never had, I believe Skyy Moore has a different skill set, but also is something that is unique to what Patrick Mahomes has never had as well. And that is a speedy possession receiver. Now, a lot of people will look at Tyreek Hill and be like, well, Tyreek Hill was way much faster. Yes, he was. But at the end of the day, Skyy Moore is a different talent. Skyy Moore, coming out of college, and you saw it, and the thing that's going to highlight in my head and should highlight all of Chiefs Kingdom is that Chargers game. And we knew in training camp, in preseason, one thing filthy about Skyy Moore's game is that footwork, is his release. He knows how to separate like crazy. And that was something that was fully on display against the Chargers, and why I feel will be capitalized going into 2023, because that can be so lethal. And also, as I mentioned, he ran a 4.38 and an official 4.41. The dude's got some speed on him as well. You can play him outside and you can play him slot, and I think that will be so deadly and so impossible for teams to cover. The one thing Skyy Moore needed to do this offseason, which I really believe and which I think we have seen glimpses of as well, is the chemistry with Mahomes. Because you saw, it was completely off last year. Like, there was just no way of correcting it, and it just needed a whole offseason to where year 2, maybe Skyy Moore gets his whole playbook together, and maybe that chemistry gets better. And it's what it's looking like, and I'm glad to see it. He joined Mahomes early in the offseason in Dallas with training. You've seen him in OTAs as well. He's made some magnificent catches as well. As much as we focus on deep routes to Justin Ross, the dude's hands are a different story. He could have the best hands on this team. He might have the biggest hands on the team as well. For a guy who was like 5'9", 5'10", he has got good ability and good stature for a wide receiver as well. He holds all the traits to be successful in this league. And also begs the question, and also what I posted on my story. Well, story, is it called a story on YouTube? We'll call it a poll. I think that's what it's called. I posed the question to Chiefs Kingdom saying, who do you think will lead the Kansas City Chiefs in receiving yards in 2023? Wide receiver, not Travis Kelce. Let's get that out of the question. And I posted Skyy Moore, Kadarius Toney, and Justin Ross. Now, I really, really believe Skyy Moore can lead this team in receiving next year. And I also don't think it's too crazy to say that maybe not this year, but in the future, Skyy Moore can be 100 reception season type of dude moving forward. Yes, we focus on Travis Kelce in that area, but I think moving forward, he can be Patrick Mahomes' security blanket and his number one go-to option. And I try to focus in and zone in as well on Kadarius Toney in this asset as well. Now, we have heard reports out of Chiefs camp and also NFL media that the Kansas City Chiefs are very intrigued and really do believe Kadarius Toney has the ability to be wide receiver one. And he has all the talent in the world to be it. And also, the main question, which let's do that right now as well. The main question is, can Kadarius Toney stay healthy? Now, Chiefs Kingdom, how come we don't pose that question a lot to Justin Ross? Because they are both very injury prone, but it seems like we're just solidifying saying, oh, Justin Ross is going to be an elite talent. He's going to be the future wide receiver number one. But when we look at Kadarius Toney, it's like, the way he moves, he's going to get too hurt too often, and he just can't stay on the field. Both the dudes stay getting hurt. You got to give them the same playing field. It's what they have shown in the league and even in college as well. So it's the same ground. You got to be fair to both guys as well. So if we just looked at it at the same features as well, I think the Kansas City Chiefs actually have 4 receivers on this team who have unique abilities that Mahomes is going to have fun using with Kadarius Toney. It's that elusiveness. It's that speed. It's that shiftiness. We mentioned with Skyy Moore, the footwork, the separation, the speed, knowing how to get away. Justin Ross as well. You guys know, big stature, big physical receiver that is hopeful to elevate and take the game to the next level. And I even want to kind of and zone in on Rashee Rice a little bit. Now, I'm not going to say he's going to do much because we know how rookies translate into the system. But, man, I believe Rashee Rice can be a complete wide receiver in the NFL. He may not be the fastest guy, but he has traits similar to every single one of those 3 receivers in Kadarius Toney, Skyy Moore, and Justin Ross that I just mentioned. That is a complete wide receiver, and that is a good core right there. The Kansas City Chiefs got so much potential in this wide receiver room. But if I'm zoning in on a wide receiver number one, I may be crazy, but shoot, I don't even want to call myself crazy because a lot of you are booking Justin Ross as wide receiver number one. I think Skyy Moore can really be wide receiver number one for this team. I think we'll see it early in the season as well. I think we're going to see a lot of short passes and then him working in the slot, and he's going to be that guy. I don't know if it'll be this year. I would love for it to be this year to where he can average 8 catches a game. That's really the kind of guy I view Skyy Moore being. A lot of people draw comparisons and say he's a Julian Edelman-esque, but I don't know if I want to go that far. And when I mean that far, comparison, I might go a little farther. And the first guy that popped to my mind, and not in punt returns whatsoever, by the way, I don't know if I want to go that stature because he's my favorite wide receiver I've loved and ever watched is Steve Smith Sr. Now, he may have that dog in him. We're going to find out this year, but it's just something where those traits, I think Skyy Moore can be that physical. We see that Charger game just shows you so much you need to know. And even in the Super Bowl and even in the championship game against the Bengals as well. And I think that's a huge thing that Chiefs Kingdom needs to focus on too going into 2023 is that little stretch with the Cincinnati Bengals and then that Super Bowl against the Philadelphia Eagles. The stats are nothing appealing, nothing sexy, nothing eye-popping by any stretch of the imagination. But what it was confidence building for Skyy Moore. And if you boost a kid's confidence and if he feels like he knows he can do it at the next level, that is huge going into the offseason and huge going into training camp. And I think that will help bolster him to go into 2023. I'm excited to see what Skyy Moore can do. And I'm also excited to see what Kadarius Toney can do as well. And I'm hopeful to see what Justin Ross can do. If you had to lay it down for me on a piece of paper and write down who will lead the Kansas City Chiefs in receiving yards next year, of course you start off with Travis Kelce. But I think at number 2 right now, I'm sticking with Skyy Moore. And then it'd be Kadarius Toney. And then the rest, you get your yardage where you get them. But at the end of the day, we know how Patrick Mahomes, we know how Coach Reid and this offense moves. You don't need a wide receiver number 1. Everyone is going to eat in this offense. But because it is the offseason, because it is the slow portion of the season, it is always a topic of conversation. And I always love having this conversation with Chiefs Kingdom. So to close it out, dive in the comments below and also answer the poll question. Who will lead the Kansas City Chiefs in yards next year? not Travis Kelce, of course. So will it be Kadarius Toney, Skyy Moore, or Justin Ross? With that, I'm going to sign off, but before I do, please be sure to subscribe to the channel. If you did like this video, please leave that big thumbs up. Y'all take care. Peace.